What is going on, Failroaders? I'm back with another live, just theory crafting video, and also just a talk about the locations of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's very clear if from looking in the trailer that we're going to get some amazing locations, and I'm going to go into that a bit more. But first, if you guys have been following along with me, you'll know that I had some polls up, and you guys responded to them about what locations you were looking forward to the most. I want to welcome a Troubadour Poet to the chat. I see that you're in there, so bonjour, welcome. I don't speak a whole lot of French. In fact, I just need to learn the phrase that says I don't speak French. So I did this in a series of rounds. Each round had 5 locations in it, and then the final round took the top 4 locations and then the top 4 runner-up locations. And it's no surprise to me that of all the different locations I listed, the Gold Saucer was y'all's #1 vote. It got the most votes out of any other location in the first round, and then in the final round, it got 56% of the votes. I'm going to show you guys the cheap way just by holding my phone up close to the screen. There we go. All right. But the final contestants were Costa del Sol, the Temple of the Ancients, the Gold Saucer, and Calm. And I feel like perhaps if I had put these in a slightly different order and different heats against each other, that perhaps I would have gotten some other places, because something tells me that Costa del Sol isn't like one of the top locations a lot of you want to see, but feel free to comment and let me know that I'm wrong. Maybe Costa del Sol is just more popular than I thought it was. But now the Temple of the Ancients and perhaps Calm, definitely not surprised. Troubadour says, I think we may actually see some new locations, perhaps some from the compilation. I can agree with that. Based on, and that is one thing that I want to get into here. I'll go ahead and just play the trailer in the background. We could talk all day about this scene. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't even know if we're going to do anything in Midgar. But as we watch this trailer, when it gets into the gameplay sections, we do see lots of ruins and places, not necessarily places, but structures and signs of civilization that we didn't see in the OG, like these windmills. There's this giant crack in the mountain. There looks to be a lighthouse in the distance. So I do agree with you, Troubadour. I think there's also going to be some semi-new locations. Also, Ever Crisis will have asset Easter eggs for Rebirth in its full release. Yeah, I am very curious to see what is going to be in Ever Crisis, because if they release all 10 chapters, then yeah, that's going to be like, we're going to see all the characters that haven't been shown in the Rebirth trailers or in Remake, and we're going to see so much more. We could get their movesets, we could possibly see some new enemies that will be in Rebirth, so that is going to be interesting. And that makes me wonder what trailer we're going to see next and what locations we might see in that next trailer. With the Gold Saucer being y'all's #1 choice, I don't know that they're going to show the Gold Saucer anytime soon. That's definitely going to be a huge reveal. And I'm sure in Rebirth, the Gold Saucer is going to be like Wall Market was for Remake. Phantomire, welcome to the stream. The map in EC is actually very detailed, and some have noticed it might actually be the Rebirth map. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I watched that video too, and I remember, if we go back to where we see the mountain. Where we at here? Might be earlier on. I'll just play it from the beginning here. Something that I thought was interesting about the mountain was this right here. This area right here, and I know that on that map, someone pointed out that there is a sort of a giant ravine that's sort of visible in the map that leads to this like big lake area. So, and the interesting thing is this area right here looks like it has been carved out. So why has it been carved out? And I at first originally thought that it might be the mithril binds, but then after watching videos going over the map in EC, it might be something completely new. So that could be one of the new areas that we reach, because it would appear that if the mithril mines are where they are in the OG, then it would be further south than that. Troubadour in Ever Crisis, they have First Soldier, Before Crisis, Crisis Core, OG, AC, and DOC. And I have heard that there may be a 7th part of the compilation that will be new under Ever Crisis. Unique content. That will be interesting, because, I mean, First Soldier in itself is pretty much new content. Even though First Soldier was this mobile battle royale game, it really had just the most bare bones storyline to it. So it's definitely possible that stored within Ever Crisis, we could see some of the locations, maybe even new locations that will be in Rebirth. And I'm definitely looking forward to Before Crisis as well. And having seen a playthrough of the beta, it is a shame that it's not going to be a much more full version. It is going to be a more Reader's Digest version, or abridged version, if you will. So I understand that I'm not going to get the full version of Ever Crisis. I mean, of Before Crisis. So that is a shame, but I am still looking forward to seeing that, as Before Crisis, so many crises. Before Crisis is one of the games that I have not played and I have not watched a playthrough of yet. Troubadour, yes, Phantomire, Final Fantasy TV made a whole video about it. Yep, I think that's the one that I watched. It is definitely interesting. Troubadour says, we will be able to ascertain more when we get another trailer at the Tokyo Gaming Show. Yeah, hopefully that'll be the next one. The big rumor for First Soldier is that Glenn, the blonde-headed leader, is Cloud's father. Yep, I've heard that theory as well. Yes, someone had a screenshot showing that there will be new characters and stories. You know me, Josh, Before Crisis is my favorite game in the entire compilation. Okay, no, I am looking forward to seeing that, because I know that there's a lot of extra lore in Before Crisis. A lot of things going on behind the scenes, a lot of new information on the characters that we all know and love, and explanations for things that maybe didn't have some explanations in all the other compilation areas. But yeah, the Gold Saucer stands to be an extremely enjoyable place for all of us to go. I made an entire video on that a while back when we saw assets for the Gold Saucer in First Soldier, and even before, when just talking about what the Gold Saucer could possibly contain. One of the things that I theorize is that the party is going to reject Cait Sith to begin with. Let's see. Let's start this over. Can I? I don't think I can put it on a loop, but I'll start it over. That Cait Sith is going to have to sort of earn his way into the group instead of in the OG where he just says, "Oh man, I just gave you guys this interesting premonition or this fortune telling. I've got to follow you guys to see where it leads and if it comes true." So it was kind of a loose way for him to join. Phantomire says the theory of Glenn was actually just a joke that turned into a serious conversation. It doesn't line up time-wise, so he isn't the father. Okay, that's good to know. I don't know that much about the timeline. Troubadour says there are 11 Turks that people still need to be introduced to, but people do know Cisne, aka Shuriken. I am curious. Yeah, Cisne is the one that I am extremely curious about seeing if she shows up in Rebirth. I would be surprised if she didn't, seeing that in Reunion, they didn't change anything, but still, they made Crisis Core Reunion, and Cisne's a big part of that one. And I know that there's a huge falling out or abandonment of the Turks, or at least the Turks are considered traitors or something, and they have to leave. So the Gold Saucer stands to be quite possibly one of the funnest locations that we've ever had in any of the Final Fantasy compilation. It's so popular, in fact, that it's also copied in Final Fantasy XIV, which unfortunately is one that I haven't played, but I've heard great things about it. So that's, if it goes as far as we think it's going to go, then we're going to see all the rides and games that you can play there. I am curious to see how we earn our first GP if we do have to play the MOG mini game to earn like what does it give you, 10 GP? the trolley ride, or the hanging cart ride where we go on the date. Let me know in a comment, guys. Who do you hope that they are able to, that Cloud's able to go on a date with? Aside from the 4 characters in the original game that you could obviously go on a date with, which was Yuffie, Tifa, Aerith, and Barrett. What about the other 4 characters? Which of those other 4 characters would you guys want to go on a date with at the Gold Saucer? While I'm waiting for those responses, there's definitely already Vincent and Red 13. I want to see choices that my thing with dates. Oh, the heart. For some reason, the heart, it blocks my view of people's comments. I want to see choices. That's my thing with dates. Okay, that's what you said. Yeah, I get that. I definitely hope that they give us choices. Let me go back. I'll play this again. It's also very clear that all these destinations that we're going to have been expanded upon, and they were expanded upon in Remake, but of course that was Midgar only. But now that we're in this open world, and we've seen so far, it definitely appears that even big things like the Gold Saucer are going to be expanded upon. I don't think that they're going to add any new plates to the Gold Saucer. There are 7 in total, if I'm correct, or 8 if it includes like the trolley that leads up to it, the cable car. But when we see this area right here, where is it at? It's Junon I'm trying to think of. Oh yes, this shot right here. That is an absolutely freaking beautiful shot. I mean, we see the high wind, we see the cannon, and we also see that Junon has been expanded upon a lot. You guys are still talking. I like you're talking about. You guys are still theorizing about the whole Glennon being Cloud's father thing. Um, you're actually working on a fanfic where Cloud finally meets his father and is angry, and Tifa is trying to help mend the relationship. Okay, very cool. But yeah, and in terms of the date with, I definitely want to see one with Red 13 as well. Like he's like the boy, you know. It's like Red 13 would just be an awesome pal to have. So, but yeah, as we see here, this is such a huge expansion of the just the Junon area alone. Now, whether we're able to actually traverse these areas, no, I don't know. But maybe we'll be able to go to some of the structures, like over here, before we go into the main city. We see signs of civilization, and that's really what excites me about this. And surprisingly, Junon did not get a ton of y'all's votes. Let's see where I put Junon. Yeah, okay, so Junon was pit against the Gold Saucer in the first round. It got 5% of the votes, whereas Gold Saucer got 50%. So, okay, there's no surprise there. It had to go up against the Gold Saucer, Cosmo Canyon, Nibelheim, and Rocket Town. So it's no surprise to me that Junon came in last place. I should have had like a battle of the losers, because I'll bet Junon would have gotten a lot more votes, especially since we have seen it right here in this trailer. It's one of the few locations that we're going to visit in Rebirth that we have seen. Let's play this a little bit more, because we can see here, I'm not exactly sure where this is, but it could be over to the side of Junon, and it definitely looks like this is an area that we can interact with or go inside. So it could be that there are structures outside of Junon, and one of the reasons I bring this up is because the Gold Saucer, you know, like just seeing what they did with Junon, I can't wait to see what they've done with the Gold Saucer. I'm expecting amazing things, and I feel like even if they just give us a slightly larger version of what we saw in the original, I would still be pretty excited. But I imagine that it's going to be even better than any of us are expecting. And I'm sure the devs understand that just like you guys voted, the Gold Saucer is probably one of the most highly anticipated locations in FF7 Rebirth, especially for when we go on the date. Now, the second location that I think you guys are extremely excited about is going to be Cosmo Canyon. Cosmo Canyon, I put that in the runner-ups category, and I'm going to flip back over to the real view. So yeah, Cosmo Canyon, right there. It was in second place in the runner-ups, beat only by the Forgotten Capital. I definitely understand why you guys wanted the Forgotten Capital as one of your top votes in the runner-up category, because we all know that some really, really big things happen there. True says, I also hope we see Cobalt 14 and Indigo 15, Nanaki clones that were left out of the original game, and I hope we see Dina, I hope I pronounced that right, Dine, Red 13's mate in Cosmo Canyon. That would be interesting too. And then Phantomire says, yes, now those would be nice, especially Dine. Let me know if I'm pronouncing that right. I totally agree. It was one of those things where I'm sure that they wanted to leave that mystery in the OG as to whether Red was truly the last of his kind, because you're led to believe that he really is throughout the entire OG, and then you only get this scene at the very end where you see that he has kids. And it's like 500 years later. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. Yeah. I'm going to say Dene or Dene. Nah, Danae. But that's one thing too. I know a lot of people want some DLC for Vincent, and Vincent could have, like, Vincent's got a huge backstory. But I'm wondering, I want to learn some stuff on Red 13 too. Like, I want to learn like what his life was like before he was captured by Shinra, like how he was captured. And let me know, guys, if they mention how Red was captured in Before Crisis, because once again, that's one of my blind spots. So let me know if in Before Crisis they actually show or talk about Red 13's capture. Before Crisis details Red 13's capture, so it does. I look forward. That's one thing that I do look forward to seeing in Ever Crisis. I can't wait for Before Crisis to come out in that. They actually show it happening. Cool. Okay, so maybe Before Crisis is the DLC that I'm looking for in terms of Red. But there's certainly a lot of backstory that I'm sure we could still get with him. Oh, you think he took Danae's place as the Turks caught her, but I'm rusty too. Okay. That would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool to learn. Even in DLC, though, we could perhaps learn more even about, his father. I believe his father's name is Seto, and his battle with the Gi tribe. But Cosmo Canyon, we've seen just Bugenhagen's observatory, and of course, they cut right before we see his legs. So let me know what you guys think Bugenhagen is going to be floating on. Before Crisis deserves a full-fledged remake. It's 28 chapters long. I think that would be cool. I think that even if they just like made it pixel art, I agree. I would like to see a full PC, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch release of it somehow. Maybe just with this like some updated pixel graphics or something. Troubadour says they were going to take Danae, you're right, Phantom. After being defeated in battle, Red agrees to go with them to Shinra if they allow them to do the Gaia saving ritual. Okay. He's on a floating materia. Yeah, I know that he's in there on a floating orb in some original artwork, and that is a discussion that we had in a previous video. But still, though, I want to see it. I want to see it with my own eyes. My headcanon is Bugenhagen is crippled, so he has to use a floating materia like a wheelchair. Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing fan art of him just like kind of with his legs crossed floating in the air. I've seen lots of fan art of various ways that people thought that maybe he float or levitated. There are so many characters in BC that they need to do a remake and expand on this game because it's a huge amount of lore that needs to be nailed down. Yeah, it will be curious to see. I think they said they're doing 10 chapters in each of these installments, so whatever they do decide to put from BC in there, it's going to be 10 chapters long. So it's possible that, like you said, it's 23 chapters in the original game, or no, I'm sorry, 28 chapters. Then yeah, they're going to take 2 or 3 chapters and combine them into one. But yeah, it is going to be interesting to see Cosmo Canyon. Once again, I do believe they're going to heavily expand upon that location because of its significant importance, because of all of the exposition that we get there. Bugenhagen answers a lot of questions that I'm sure when we first played it and new players to the game are going to have. That's going to be one of those places where they're like, whoa, this is what's happening. This is how it really does work. This is incredible. Um, and then, of course, the Forgotten Capital once again beat Cosmo Canyon just by a little bit. Forgotten Capital got 46% of the votes, and Cosmo Canyon got 42% of the votes in the runner-up vote. And of course, they beat North Corel and Gongaga. The Forgotten Capital, I don't think I have to say this by now, but spoiler alerts for compilation of Final Fantasy VII. We all know what happens there. There's that theory that Sephiroth is saying 7 seconds till the end. He's referring to the moment where he kills Aerith, and so without going into too much theory crafting, we stand to see something along that lines happen at the Forgotten Capital. Something huge is going to go on there. How it goes down, we don't know. I really hope if we see Sid that they don't change his potty mouth. Yeah. I hope Aerith doesn't die and is reunited with Zack. You hope she doesn't die this time and is reunited with Zack. Yeah, I know in terms of Crisis Core fans, that's what they want to see. And I'm sure, the devs are smart about this. The devs know that that's one of the things that the fans of Crisis Core are dying to see is some kind of interaction between Aerith and Zack before tragedy strikes. Y'all know that I'm a huge Clarith fan, so it's interesting. I do believe, since this is the middle of a trilogy, we are going to end this one in tragedy, so whether that tragedy happens at the Forgotten Capital is a good question, and how it happens. Because one of the best things that they could do is set us up to believe that things may go the same way that they went in the original game, and then the Forgotten Capital could be where things just go lopsided and it makes us wonder what the hell is going on. Phantomire, yep, no happy ending for anyone, but it will be conclusive. Yeah, I also want to see Evan introduced in Rebirth and see a little misadventure with Kyrie and Leslie as their destiny has been changed as well. Okay. I hope SE goes out of the way and gives us all happy endings. I know, like, I want there to be a happy ending, but I know at the same time that in order to keep the story as amazing as it was in the OG, there still has to be tragedy. So however the tragedy happens, it's probably going to happen at the end of Rebirth. And I'm not one of those guys where I'm just like, oh, if this doesn't happen, hashtag not my Final Fantasy VII. But I will be disappointed. I'll be less impressed with it or something. Like, I'm going to love the game. I have a huge feeling that I'm going to enjoy it, no matter what happens. But if certain key things don't happen in this particular story, I think a lot of fans will be disappointed. Even, whether you're a Tifa fan or an Aerith fan, if one of them doesn't die, I think that would be a disappointing thing for the fans. Let's see. I hope SE. Oh yeah. I'd temper that expectation. Yeah. I want dual universe, one like original, one with different stuff. Brandon Tucker says. Trooper, I will, but that's what I would like to see. I disagree, Josh. Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if Sephiroth wins this time, but it's anyone's guess. Troubadour, I don't think Tifa or Aerith has to die. It's a possibility, and with Zack being alive, we don't know. That's the big thing about Rebirth is with Zack being alive. It can, it's like the butterfly effect. It's like it can change off in any direction. And what we've seen in the Summer Game Show trailer, only gives us small clues as to what may actually happen. I think there are two timelines, a third if you count the OG. Okay. I right now I conform with I guess the two timelines. I do wonder if the Terrier timeline is the perhaps supposed to be the original, but has been changed as it appears that the tornado killed the characters that lived in that timeline, and our characters from the Beagle timeline have transferred into it. So it's hard to say what's going to happen. Either way, in one of those timelines, Marlene doesn't have a daddy, and that makes me sad. Let's see. So yeah, the Forgotten Capital. Definitely understand why that was one of y'all's top votes. Another one of y'all's top votes, let me get back down to hit, was the Temple of the Ancients. In terms of like the more dungeony locations, that was in the part 3 of the voting. It was between Mithril Mines, Forgotten Capital, Corel Prison, Mount Nibble Reactor, and Mount Nibble, and the Temple of the Ancients. The Temple of the Ancients definitely won with 50% of the votes. Before we knew that this was going to be a trilogy, a lot of people were theorizing that the Temple of the Ancients could be a possible stopping location. If and I agreed with that. That was a possible stopping location if they were making 4 games. But now that we know that it's 3, I do conform with most other people say we're probably going to make it to the Northern Crater because that would be a logical ending point that would leave us on a cliffhanger and also leave the party in a situation which will be very intense to start off with in the next game. The Terrier timeline is Zach's tragic timeline, which was why everyone was crying at the church in the Yuffie DLC. I definitely want more story about Dyne and maybe a flashback of Eleanor to see Marlene's real mother. Yeah, that would be interesting. I know there's that huge theory that either Aerith gave Marlene some powers of the Ancients or that possibly Marlene is part Ancient. Yeah, and Barrett's wife too. Yep, we never met her in the OG. Jin Shin, Aerith needs to live. Okay. Troubadour Poet, there is also a theory that Sephiroth Seeks Redemption, Part 3, could be called Redemption, and Sephiroth finds out the truth that Lucretia is his real mother. I know some fans are okay with like the Sephiroth redemption path. I don't want it, but once again, that is a possibility. With this altering timeline and new information coming out, that's a possibility. Although I know that the Sephiroth that we're dealing with had to give up some of his humanity in order to maintain his whole presence or maintain his conscience in the live stream. So that's a tough one. I'm not sure if Sephiroth would want to be redeemed even if he learned the truth at that point. There is also the theory that Sephiroth... Oh yeah. Jin Shin says the emotion game made people stop playing. People cannot play when I tier coming out. Sephiroth wouldn't want anything to do with any thing related to his morality. Sorry. Yes, he willfully let go of his humanity, so he still wants to be a god. Plus, fans would riot, let's be honest. As long as it ends with Angeal coming back with Genesis and going with Sephiroth going to sacrifice their lives to stop Genova. Man, those are all some crazy theories, and once again, there are hints, of course, in the trailer, the first just little teaser that we saw. We saw that white feather floating down, so there's the possibility of Angeal. But but yeah, so the Temple of the Ancients. So quite possibly everyone's most anticipated sort of dungeon area. Uh, Definitely was an amazing part for me, learning what the Temple of the Ancients was. And I will say the thing that sticks out to me also is at the end of that dungeon, Sephiroth basically takes total control of Cloud. I remember being, um, a young teenager first playing that, and when I got to that moment, I was so confused as to what was going on because you've got this Cloud, who is slowly moving towards Sephiroth, and then you've got this little kid Cloud running around, and you're like, why am I a kid at this point? Because you don't know what is truly happening. But then seeing what they've done in remake, hearing the voices in Cloud's head, Cloud talking to himself when he's unconscious as he falls to the church. It's interesting to see how the OG even had these little seeds of information, and then once you play through it again, you see all this interesting stuff. Let's see. Yeah, Sephiroth became good and ending turning out to be good. I like it, lol. Troubadour says, I also want to see Chocobo breeding expanded upon and make Chocobo Bill's farm like a small HQ hub where it can be upgraded with Gil and side quests. I wonder if I could definitely see that in more so in the third game. I don't. I don't think they're going to let us breed a golden chocobo in Rebirth, but I could see them doing that in the final part of the trilogy because they definitely don't want to like give us the whole shebang that was in the OG, and of course, the gold chocobo is how you get to that small island out in the middle of the ocean to get the Knights of the Round Table. And I know there's a theory that the Knights of the Round could be a huge part of the third game. I don't know that it will be, but I feel like maybe that could be more than just a side quest. Jen says, when Sephiroth found out Lucretia is the mom instead of Genova, also Genova is regular human being infected by alien virus who became evil. I'd be fine with that, Jen. The issue with that theory is that Sephiroth likely also knows who his mother is. If he is aware of Omega, he knows Lucretia. I wonder if we could also get a future DLC arc of Denzel and Marlene. That's definitely. I don't know that I would see, just based on what we're getting from the remake trilogy, I doubt we would see Denzel and Marlene in that. That would be. I don't even think that we would see that in the Advent Children portion of Ever Crisis. They would have to heavily expand upon Advent Children, in my opinion, for Ever Crisis, though, to make it 10 chapters. But we probably would get more with Denzel and Marlene in Ever Crisis. Other than that, I'm not sure what would happen with them. There are multiple Sephiroths, so I wonder which one could be impressionable. Yeah, that's something that's still. Yeah, no telling. Final Fantasy, Jin says Final Fantasy Remake is timeline after Dirge of Cerberus. A timeline we're going back. This is why Rebirth instead, calling Remake Part 2, Rebirth meaning revive, or born back again. Coming back to the locations discussion, what do you think of the location is at 1,100 meters? Okay. That is interesting. So yeah, the 1100 meters in the trailer. Let me see if I can get back to that point, and I will flip back over. You can find the Yuffie fight right there. No, pause. Oh, I went too far. Hold on. I'll flip back over to the trailer so that you guys can see it. There we go. All right. So yeah, 1117 meters. So I have to kind of break it down. Like a lot of people are using Yuffie, Cloud, and Red 13's HP level as it being either mid to late game. I would think that it would be somewhere. I originally thought that it might be on the Eastern continent, but then yeah, it wouldn't make sense for them to have that high of an HP, so it probably is on the Western continent. The mountainous range that we're in, let me see if I can back it up a tiny bit. You can see Tifa in the background there too. The area that we're at could be the Corel area, like the Corel Mountains. Yeah, they haven't said officially how big it is yet. But I would theorize that possibly we could be in the Corel Mountains in an area where we are able to do side quests. Well, I guess clearly like there's extra markers up there, so some of those could be side quests and side quest destinations. So, and it looks like the main quest is the one that is 1100 meters away. So if we are in an area, say that we've just gotten out of the Gold Saucer and we have the means to backtrack to the Corel Mountains, we could have a side quest in or around that area, and that that main quest marker right there could be Cosmo Canyon. So that would explain like the huge distance. They say that rebirth zones will be bigger than 15s. I don't think they officially, yeah. I'm also really wondering if, since now Yuffie stumbled upon deep ground, if now they will also resurface in rebirth. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I don't think they're going to give us that that deep ground Easter egg in with just the DLC and not go further with it. Because, and this is one thing that I'll say with Yuffie's reaction here. You know, Yuffie saw this like purple essence around Nero, and I'll even give it some volume here. Let me see if it, yeah. Let me back it up a little bit.
Keep her away from me!
Yeah, she's terrified of it. So she sees this purple essence, and I think the reason she's terrified of it is because it reminds her of Nero, and it reminds her of losing Sonon. So I do believe they are going to have those guys resurface. Also running Deep Ground. That was in Final Fantasy V's video, just speculation, actually. I also hope, as far as the Sviets go, that they include the restrictors and Argento, the silver. Then Jin says, they make game open world also more action, also allow player control characters going back area grinding or looting items. I think they are going to have a lot of exploration in here. Couldn't tell you how far I am in Final Fantasy XVI. I think they're going to have bigger areas than that, and I I remember seeing that also in Final Fantasy V's video about talking about how, he did the calculations for how big 16's areas were. So, but yeah, totally agree that we're going to be able to backtrack to certain areas. Now, like once we cross the ocean, I know in the OG we were able to go back across using a ship to get to the eastern continent. I don't know if they'll do that in Rebirth. So it's going to be like we have the eastern continent, we unlock several locations, we have side quests, then we go to Junon, we cross over to Costa del Sol, and then either we don't get to return for a while, like for a long time until we get the means to perhaps travel shallow waters. That's another thing. I made an entire video on, are we going to get the Tiny Bronco in Rocket Town? Rocket Town is something I'm looking forward to a lot. Not just for getting Sid, but for the events that happen there. And in the OG, I mentioned this in the Tiny Bronco video, four of the characters hop on the Tiny Bronco in what today would kind of be a comical portion of the game. So I am wondering are we just going to see all 9 of our characters hop on the Tiny Bronco? Is there going to be an alternate transportation device? Because the Tiny Bronco was a single-seater plane. Let's see. Chin says, I hope Rebirth is open world. I heard some rumors say might not until after Rebirth. Developer is smart, making remakes sell, then Rebirth sell, and final game might call it return or retime or redo. Laughing my ass off. I don't think it's going to be open world in the sense that of like Skyrim or something. I think it'll definitely be open zone, and then there's the possibility that they could get back to having a little bit of freedom where maybe you can travel from zone to zone towards the end, but I don't know how much freedom we'll have there. See, how big does everyone think Rebirth will be? My guess is 120 to 160 gigabytes. Yeah, I could see that. Technically, they already have touched on it because of Vice. He is still alive, and the timing is about right. The events hint that restrictors still exist. Yeah. Once the restrictors die, Vice dies 3 days later. Okay. 180 gigs, since Remake already used 90 gigs. And I think with Remake, if you include the DLC, even on the PlayStation version, is it still 90 or is it like 100? I feel like it's more than 100 with the Yuffie DLC. But I could be misremembering that. I loaded it a while back. Scarlet may be a restrictor because Nero didn't attack her. Could be. He seemed to have a reverence, or at least a fear of Scarlet, so Scarlet has something over him. I'm almost worried they remove Tiny Bronco or redesign it. I don't know how they're going to do the Tiny Bronco scene without splitting the party. Let's see. Super cool, though. Also, my most favorite part of DOC Online is that they include Argento the Silver. She is a very interesting character, yeah. Okay. You think it's going to be about 100? Oh, the original, the remake intergrade was 100? Okay. I think that's about right. So, let me know, guys, of you who are in the chat, and anybody who's lurking too. let me know right now what your most anticipated location for Rebirth is. We'll talk a little bit about those locations. Gold Saucer, they'd better have Ghost Hotel. Oh, there's no way they can't have the Ghost Hotel. They have to have it. I totally agree. Troubadour, I'm anticipating the village where Genesis is from. They bombed it into ruins, so it is going to be curious as to whether we come across the ruins, or are they going to pull a Nibelheim and are they going to rebuild it and have basically actors living there? So yeah, the village where Genesis was from was Bonora. Phantomire says Nibelheim because I just want Vincent. Oh yeah, totally agree. I can't wait to see how Vincent fights. I could absolutely see him being sort of like Yuffie. He would be a mixture of short range and long range attacks. Short range with just like his fist, like the gauntlet that he wears, and of course long range would be his weapon that would be equipable and upgradable. I agree. And the Hangman. Yes. I want to have the Hangman there. There's so many things from the classic that would be amazing to see there. They definitely had Gold Saucer, absolutely. Definitely. In Chapter 3, we can see Tifa expression like she knows that Cloud doesn't want to talk about story. I wonder if we may get some guest party members this game as well. I would love to see Tifa and Zangan go on a side quest and train. That would be interesting. I never thought about that one. Brandon Tucker, I'm not convinced they give us Vincent next game. Maybe just to the closed coffin, increase the creep factor. I tell you what, Brandon, if they don't give us Vincent, I think some fans would riot. I really do hope we have all 9 party members by the end of part 2, though. Zack alive, I bet Cloud might get fight with Zack over Aerith. This time, could Cloud kill Zack over Aerith? Oh god, that would be horrible. I know there were a lot of theories about there being an evil Cloud, and we do see in Rebirth the possibility of Cloud becoming one of the robed figures, but I don't know that he would do something so evil as kill Zack or kill Aerith in front of the other. My theory is that it would be perhaps the opposite, that he would try to do something heroic. That was my theory, at least. But seeing the possibility that Zack's Cloud could become one of the robed figures, it's tough. It's tough. Like, there could be like that version of Cloud could absolutely do something that our Cloud wouldn't do. But that's a tough one. You think part 2 ends at the Northern Crater? I could see that. They need to have all characters by part 2. Yeah, I agree. The Ever Crisis story is different, though. Would you get the chance to play? Yeah, I have an iPhone, so I didn't play the beta. Although I don't know that I've had time to play the beta because 16 is taking up so much time. And I'm not even halfway through that yet. I kind of think the 4chan leak may actually have some weight and truth to it. Okay. Happened almost 2 years ago. Corrupt Cloud. Hope all characters next part. Yeah, I hope we have all characters in next part. Seem to good and be true, though. It says Cloud fights Genesis and is mortally wounded and dies in Tifa's arms, and Sephiroth kidnaps the other Cloud from Zack's timeline to protect his existence. That would be crazy. That would be intense. T-Boom, I personally want Kate Sith DLC. Yeah, cool. I'd be cool with getting DLC on several of the characters. Whether we get it or not, I don't know. I could imagine that they would only perhaps do one DLC in between each of these releases, because they did a freaking good job on Yuffie's DLC and intermission. And I know that takes just what they did probably took a lot of work. They did a great job on it. And Fort Condor too. Speaking of which, and that's the last vote that I haven't actually talked about in this stream. Let me pull it up here. It wasn't really like one of the parts of the, which areas are you most anticipating, but this question was, which of these areas in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth do you think will be out of order from the original, and possibly even moved to the third part of the trilogy? Fort Condor and Wutai were the top votes there. And I definitely can understand why. Wutai is going to be such a huge area that I don't know how they're going to fit it into Rebirth if they make it all the way to the Northern Crater. That is going to be so much. And yet they could surprise us. Like, if they do that, I feel like this is going to be like a 100-hour game. And then Fort Condor, with them talking about the possibility of some places being visited out of order, Fort Condor technically wouldn't be important until we started looking for the huge materias, and that could be that would definitely be third game content, because that's what a lot of the end game is spent doing, is going to all these locations to specifically get the large or the huge materia. K-Sith would be fun. Just please no stealth like he was in DOC. Agreed. I honestly thought before they announced the trilogy that there would be 4 games. I thought after Remake, based on how much story there was in Remake, that there would be 4 parts, but they surprised us. Which they released Weapon, Ruby, Emerald Ultimate, and White One. I forgot its name. Diamond. I could see that happening at the very end of Rebirth. Sephiroth's true form coming back to life, receiving the Black Materia, all the weapons being released. That would be such a cliffhanger to end Part 2 on. Shocked that they were considering only 2 parts. Yeah, after I never really felt that if part 1 was Midgar only, that they could end the last one in just 2 parts, because that would be so much content. That would be too much if they were to give it a remake treatment like they did with Remake. Trying to end the game in a second part only, there was just no way. There was just no way. So, yeah, if Part 3 sells well, they could end up doing a future arc as a Part 4. Definitely possible. Phantom Mire, I was shocked they were considering only... Oh, yeah, I already read that one. Yeah. Dante Room, Pighead from Resident Evil 4 shots just like Barrett. Troubadour Poet, that rumor that they are considering only 2 parts was actually discussed in the 4chan leak, which makes me think some that speculation may be true. If they had done it in 2 parts, I feel like they would have gone further than Midgar, though. Jin Rebirth release will be in 24, and I'm really hoping that it doesn't, like, the third part doesn't release in 2030. So I'm hoping honestly that this next iteration of the game only takes 3 years as opposed to 4 years, because they have a crap ton of assets built for Rebirth that they could reuse then for the third part. So I really hope that the time between the second installment and the third installment is a little bit less. But I still want it to have an amazing story and an amazing treatment. So if it takes them 4 years, that'll be fine. But good grief, oh, I don't want to have to wait that long. I really don't. Yeah, yeah, Jen, you'll be getting too old. I'll be in my 40s by then. I don't even want to think about that. But anyway, guys, so let me know. Let me know, not just in terms of a location before we go. Let me know what event you're hoping, or you're most anticipating. Is it the date scene? Is it what happens at the Temple of the Ancients? What happens at the Forgotten Capital, or maybe even the North Crater, or in whichever location you're thinking of? Let me know what event you're most looking forward to in Rebirth, and we will wrap it up there, briefly talking about that. So I've definitely appreciated everyone being here. This has been a fun stream. It's always more fun when I get to discuss stuff like this with you guys. Let's see. Yeah, you will be a daddy and have 2 or 3 kids crawling on you in your 40s, Josh. I've already got one. I don't know if we're going to have another one. Barrett finding Marlene for the first time. In a flashback? Phantom Meyer? Is that what you're talking about? Yes. Alright. Jen, remake. The part I hate is minigame, especially Dart Challenge. One so gay, taking forever and won't score to 7 dart beat wedge score. They really could expand on Barrett and Dine's story. I know a lot of people really want that, so I can understand that. Both with the flashback and with what happens in the present day at the Gold Saucer and the Corel prison. All right, y'all. This has once again been fun. I will say that lots of interesting moments going to go with the obvious of Forgotten Capital, probably. Okay. While we're wrapping this up, Buena nuit, mon ami. Oh, bonne nuit, mon ami. There we go. I think I said that right. I've been in contact with Kai the Player, if you guys watch Kai the Player, so hopefully we'll be coming out with a video discussion in some way, shape, or form, but I'm really looking forward to talking to him. So we'll be recording that. Barrett's story in Midgar from Tifa's perspective. Okay. So yeah, lots of fun things. And in terms of videos that I've been needing to edit, oh man, preparing for these live streams, preparing for Final Fantasy 16 videos, preparing for I've got to give myself more time to edit videos, because I've got like Dante Room was looking forward to my review of Traces of Aerith, and when FF9 remake is announced, Kai will be super happy. Yeah, I think it would be really cool if a remake of Final Fantasy IX, even if it was just more of like a Crisis Core sort of remake where they just add voice acting to all the characters and they pretty much keep all the lines the same. I think that would be amazing. But yeah, I think we may even discuss some of that whenever we get a chance to talk to each other. So yeah, guys, once again, thank you guys for joining me. Be sure to check out more of my Final Fantasy content, and if you guys are interested, check out my Final Fantasy 16 playthrough. That is my first attempt at ever trying to record my first playthrough of it in an entirety of any game. So hope you guys will check that out, and of course there will be more Final Fantasy VII content, because dang, that's my favorite. Thank you guys for joining me in the chat. If you guys were lurking in the background, thank you guys for lurking in the background, and I will check you next time.